Xbox On. Welcome to Xbox On, a podcast with one host about one console, Xbox. I am said host Jesse DeRosa, and on today's episode, we'll be talking about the latest Xbox news for the week of August 1st, 2024, including Microsoft's quarterly earnings are out again, and the news is still not good for hardware fans. Fable developer Playground Games seems to be spinning up a third team. STALKER 2 has been delayed yet again, and more. This week in Xbox history, in the year 2010, 14 years ago, Halo 2600 was released. This is not like a game you go and download and play, although I don't know if they ever made it available in some like special way, maybe for a limited time or whatnot. I don't know. This was a project made by, I forget who the other guy was, but it was Ed Fries, who used to be an executive at Microsoft Game Publishing. But yeah, this was basically like taking Halo Combat Evolved and trying to capture the spirit of that game and envision it as an Atari 2600 game. I think it was more just done as like kind of like a pet project fun thing. But yeah, this was back in 2010. And I remember the only reason I really remember this being a thing, other than just like, you know, news sites being like, whoa, look at this Halo demake. It's just because this ended up actually being included in some like tech exhibit at the Smithsonian Museum for some reason. So I think it's actually still there. And so that's, I remember when I went to New York in 2018, I was like, we should probably go see the Halo Atari game at the Smithsonian, and then we didn't. And I went to the Nintendo store and I bought a Splatoon shirt instead. But I don't know. I don't know why this is something that's stuck in my brain forever. But Halo 2600, it's not a game you can play on your Xbox, but it's kind of a Halo game, right? All right, guys, welcome to episode 270 of the Xbox On podcast. Gotta be honest, man. I'm just being real honest. It's not that I don't want to be here today. I do. It's good to be here. I like Xbox On when I'm recording it, when I'm in the trenches recording it, because this is one of those, like, it's just one of those grounding things. It's like I always know it's Wednesday because it's podcast day. I love getting to free my mind of work and free my mind of all the other things in life, and just for 1 to 2 hours, just spill out all my stupid, unnecessary, nobody asked for thoughts about Xbox and Disney and all the shit no one cares about. It's just nice. It's a nice little respite from the rest of my life and a little venting space for me. So I always enjoy it. But if I'm just being real honest, this week I'm not in the headspace for this. It's been a crazy whirlwind of a week for me. And the last thing I have thought about or done with my life these past 5 or 6 days is play video games or think about like fun leisurely things. I've just not had the time or the headspace for that. But this is a great opportunity to kind of force myself to get back into that. You know, that it's important you carve out some time and attention for the things that just bring you happiness, even if it's not necessarily something that's a necessity in life. So, you know, video games are one of those things that makes me happy. So it is nice to have a reason to stop, force myself to just chill out, talk about Xbox for an hour or two with you guys. And yeah, so let's get the podcast going. We'll see how this goes. So Mike Clark writes in and says, Xbox On podcast. Did you know Master Chief is really Blinks the cat? Hashtag RFK Jr. 2024. I don't know what RFJK, J.K. Rowling. RFK Jr., not really sure what he has to do with Blinks the Time Cat. Although he was struggling for a minute there with the whole, like, who's he going to pick as his running mate, It would be badass as hell if Blinks the Time Cat was his running mate. I mean, or maybe Master Chief. I mean, that would definitely be a huge boon to the third-party candidate. You know, the third-party candidate, everyone knows it's a noble thing to do. The American system desperately needs, you know, more candidates and more parties to break up the oligarchy that is the Democrat versus Republican, you know, domination of American politics we've had for way too long. But, you know, we all know, like, third-party candidate, they're never going to win. And I say that as someone who predominantly votes for third-party candidates because I fucking hate all politicians. So I'm not trying to discourage or, you know, I'm not trying to make you feel any type of way about your support of a third-party candidate. It's just if you really want to get people to stop paying attention to the red versus blue, you gotta pull out something crazy. You gotta do a wild thing. You can't get an NFL star or a lapsed Republican or Democrat celebrity politician to be your running mate. You got to go even more extreme than that. And I'm talking about getting an old, antiquated Xbox mascot as your running mate. I mean, Blinks the Time Cat, RFK Jr., JD Vance, Donald Trump, who? Kamala Harris with, I don't know, who's going to be her VP pick? A second version of herself? Two of her? I don't fucking know. I go with Blinks the Time Cat all fucking day, every day. I never even played those games, the honest Xbox admission. It's actually a blind spot in my Xbox history, and weirdly enough, that game came out around the time I was a kid who was just so obsessed with character, action, adventure, platformer style games. I mean, I was all over Ratchet and Clank and Jak and Daxter and Mario and Luigi's Mansion and Sonic the Hedgehog. I mean, why the fuck wasn't I playing Blinks? I don't know. It's a blind spot for me. Mike Clark, thank you for writing in. Thank you for being here today. God bless you. All right, guys. Notable game releases of the week. We haven't recovered too much from last week. There's not too much happening right now, but one game I do want to mention, Star Wars Bounty Hunter, I guess it's a remaster, re-release for modern hardware. This game was originally an OG Xbox game. This was also available on GameCube and PS2. I think there was a Game Boy Advance version of this game too, if I'm not mistaken. Pretty sure there was, and probably a PC version as well. I don't know. Doesn't matter. This is a game that I didn't play too much. I know Cronky used to play it. This is one of those games that it's just of that era. Like the thing about Star Wars is, because I was born in the mid-90s, I did not grow up like an OG trilogy Star Wars fan. I mean, if you listen to the podcast, you can probably tell, because I am quick to criticize the hell out of Star Wars and Star Wars fans because I didn't grow up with the affinity for it that a lot of people have. So to me, my touchstone with Star Wars, it was twofold. It was my older brother, who was born in the 80s, loved Star Wars. I don't know why he likes Star Wars so much. What's so good about Star Wars? It's not Spider-Man. And then my second like touch point with Star Wars was, man, Star Wars really makes some good, George Star Wars really makes some really awesome Star Wars video games. If only the movies were half as interesting as these video games. And I feel like this game came out around that time for me, where I was, 10 years old, whatever, just super into all these Star Wars video games that were everything from, I'm not going to name them because I blank all the time. That one on the N64, to like the licensed tie-in games like Episode 1 and Episode 3 and Star Wars Bounty Hunter, of course, and Republic Commando, and a few years after this with like Force Unleashed. It's like I feel like I grew up having an understanding of the world of Star Wars just because there were so many good Star Wars games back in those days. And now I feel like, we still get Star Wars games pretty regularly, especially by modern game development standards. I just feel like this has got to be like a nostalgia, like in my day it was a, kind of thing where I'm just nostalgic for the way it was when I was a kid. But I just feel like even though we are still getting objectively high quality Star Wars games, I know a lot of people like the Star Wars Jedi games and some other recent entries in the franchise. I just feel like, man, Star Wars games were so fucking on fire. I mean, I know, serious gamers will point to KOTOR, one of the greatest RPG games of all time, a Star Wars game. So it's just, I don't know, man. There's something about this era of Star Wars games from like the N64, the OG Xbox, up to like early Xbox 360 years, where it's just like, not every Star Wars game, because there were a lot of them, but the majority of Star Wars games that we got in those years, like during that 10 plus years, like, goddamn, dude, that was some good shit. That is my, like, I would say the combination of those video games plus Revenge of the Sith, which as a kid, really until Disney bought Star Wars and kind of brought it back in 2015, really the only Star Wars I ever gave a shit about was pretty much just kind of Episode 1 a little bit, just because I liked Qui-Gon and Darth Maul, but otherwise didn't give a shit about that movie. And then I thought Revenge of the Sith was actually just kind of a badass movie. And then it was just all these Star Wars games. Like everything else was like, I don't give a shit. It's like, it's culturally impossible to not know, Darth Vader is Luke Skywalker's daddy, and he kisses his sister because they're white, and that's what white people do. It's like, I knew all those things because you just know those things. You know those things the way, like, when you're 7, you just know way too much about Hitler for some reason because cultural osmosis. I don't fucking know, But growing up, like, that was Star Wars for me. It was like Episode 3, Qui-Gon's green lightsaber, and a whole load of badass Star Wars video games for a movie franchise I had no interest in. And I just kind of missed that era. So I'm not going to play Star Wars Bounty Hunter. I maybe one day when it's on like $5 like fire sale, whatever, maybe just pick it up on impulse. I just don't have the time. There's so many other games I have right now I'm trying to fucking get to before the fall lineup starts to really hit us. But I like to think if I had a lot more free time and just a lot more desire to get through as many games as possible, I feel like this is a game I'd really like to spend some time with, but I can't. We just got the Star Wars Battlefront remasters. I enjoyed that. Just couldn't find the time for it. I'm trying to work reading back into my schedule. I don't want to spend too much time away from reading because I'm afraid I'm becoming even more illiterate than I already am. So it's a whole thing. But Star Wars Bounty Hunter, I feel like this would be a good time, a good game to revisit. I'm sure this one holds up. But that's available as of the time you listen to this podcast, and it's also available on the Xbox One. So if for some reason you don't have a Series S or X or a gaming PC, you can even play it on your fucking potato Xbox One that still has Kinect hooked up to it for some reason. I don't know, whatever. All right, guys, let's get into our mildly amusing stories, or stories to kind of kick us off for the week, get our knives sharpened, get our dicks wet. I don't know. What do they say? Speaking of nostalgia bait, speaking of the Xbox 360 and before, this week was the week officially. The Xbox 360 storefront, the marketplace, has shut down. It is no longer a thing. You can no longer go on there and buy games. This is really disappointing because there are still hundreds of games that are just not accessible now, that were digital only or didn't have physical releases or weren't made backwards compatible. Whatever the case may be, there's still enough games through all those channels and all those means of accessibility are now just lost to time. Sorry, if you didn't get it, you didn't get it. It's gone now. And that, I think, is the real shame here. But overall, I don't know. There's something about it. Like, I wasn't about to bust my Xbox 360 out of storage and hook it up and blow on a cartridge like it's N64 and try to boot the thing back up. I wasn't going to do that, but there is something comforting. I feel the same way. Like, I know the Wii U shop just went offline recently. 3DS shop went offline in the past year or whatever. Like, it happens every time any of these shops go offline, especially for platforms I had an affinity for, like Xbox 360 or like Wii U, where I wasn't about to go back and get on the storefront and bust this console out of storage. But just knowing that was a possibility, that was an option, was comforting, It's like, I don't know. It's like, it's funny. My girlfriend and I were going to the movie theater the other night, and we live, like, where we are, the movie theater closest to us is right next door to a Books A Million, a bookstore, which growing up, we never had Books A Million in Georgia. We had Barnes & Noble, but same fucking thing. And I jokingly said to her, because, I do all my reading on a Kindle. She's not much of a reader at all, really. And if she does, whatever, she doesn't go to the bookstore. She downloads it or gets it from the library. And I just made the joke. I'm like, there's something about the bookstore where it's like every time you drive by Barnes & Noble or Books A Million, it's like you kind of peek at it to make sure it's still in business. And you go, yeah, Barnes & Noble is still around. Hell yeah, it's still open. It's like, I'm not going to stop by. I have no intention of giving them my money and conducting any business there, but it's just comforting to me to know that the store still exists. It's this weird thing. It's like, I made the joke, it's like the whole thing where it's like none of us are actually going to go there and buy any books and support the business and keep it alive, but we all are so quick to be like, oh, people don't read today. We need to keep the bookstores alive. It's just like this arbitrary thing. I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting at, but I feel similarly about like the Xbox 360 marketplace and all these digital storefronts that are shutting down. It's like I wasn't about to go drop $150 in Xbox 360 games on a 2-generation-old console, but just knowing that it was still around was a nice, I don't know. I'm not about to reach out to one of my childhood friends I haven't talked to in 15 years, but I hope they're alive and well. That kind of thing, So, rest in peace, Xbox 360 storefront. It's safe to say, I'm not saying my favorite. I don't think I have a favorite Xbox. I switch often between Xbox One and Xbox 360. But regardless of what my personal favorite is, I think I speak for everyone and I speak objectively when I say Xbox 360, it is the best Xbox, right? Like 2005 to 2013, especially, I mean, if you want to get really specific, I'd say like 2005 to maybe 2011. Like, that really is like the absolute prime, the prime set of like 5, 6, 7 years of Xbox, right? Like, the brand was never any better before or after that time frame, really. So Xbox 360, I mean, it's such a special time for all of us as Xbox fans. So anyway, Viking Funeral for the Xbox 360 marketplace. You shoot a fire arrow out to the fucking little raft as it floats out to the out to sea, presumably. I don't fucking know. What do I know? Anyway, that's the Xbox 360 marketplace. That's the nostalgia bait for the week. We talked about old Star Wars video games. We talked about Xbox 360. Now let's talk about the future. And as is the case with all modern and future video games, there's only really two conversations to be had. Someone's losing their job or some game's getting delayed. And in this case, it's the latter, which is, I guess, preferable to the former. Stalker 2 has officially been delayed again. And of course, this is the game where we all have to walk on eggshells and be like, oh, it got delayed again, but I'm not mad about it. Please don't get dead, Ukrainian game devs, because obviously, they're in a little bit of a unique situation, being, GSC Game World, with being located in Ukraine during, the conflict that's happening. So obviously there are more important things for these game developers than getting a video game shipped to us so we can, be entertained for a weekend before we forget about these guys and move on to bitch about something new. But, it's disappointing nonetheless. So, I mean, and they're self-aware. They're poking fun at it. The delay was made through a video, a new trailer they dropped, and the trailer is titled Really Again? So, I mean, they're self-aware. They're poking fun at it. They're like, sorry, But the game is now being moved from a September 5th release date to November 20th. So just a couple months. It's okay. 10 weeks. We can all fucking live. It's not the end of the world. But the problem here is that September 5th was such a great time to release this game because it was right before the onslaught of fall releases. But now November 20th, that's in the middle of the shit. I mean, presumably, assuming nothing else gets delayed, which I'm sure at least one of the following games I'm about to mention will get delayed, that would be smack dab in between Black Ops 6 and Avowed and Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny. I mean, the Great Circle. It's like it's bad timing, man. That's all I gotta say. Bad timing now. This is one of those situations where I have to pick and choose, and something's gonna get played first, and something's gonna be put on the back burner, and we just can't play them all in the order that they come out. But it happens. It's not the end of the world. So I'd rather them take the extra time, polish it up, get rid of your bugs, make sure that you make the game as perfect as can fucking be, because Twitter and Reddit are just so eager to rip anything apart. There's always some guy who's incapable of doing half the shit you can do that is so eager to jump on you for anything you got mildly incorrect or something that could have just been a little better. So I get it. Take your time, make the game all that it can be. It's not the end of the world, but it is disappointing nonetheless. So, of course, Stalker 2 will be a day one Game Pass game, so still have that to look forward to. Calm down. $20 a month. Not that fucking bad. You're getting Stalker 2, you're getting Indiana Jones, you're getting Avowed, you're getting Black Ops 6 all day one. Tell me how that's not worth $20 a month plus all the other perks you get. It's okay. All right. Speaking of $20 a month, you might be spending, I don't know how many dollars a month Amazon Prime costs. I think I pay for it annually. But if you are subscribed to Amazon Prime Video, there's another video game being adapted into live action TV series because Hollywood has no ideas, but the video game developers do. So let's make their ideas into TV shows. Hollywood's like, we made movies of all the books. Now we need to make TV shows out of all the video games. And then once they go through that, I mean, they're fucked. Then they're completely out of ideas. I guess they'll just start remaking. Maybe they'll do animated reimaginings of the live action reimaginings of Disney classic movies. By that point, I think enough time will have passed that they'll be able to do that. Who knows? Anyway, Sega and Amazon Prime Video have released the first trailer for the live action Like a Dragon series, titled Like a Dragon Yakuza. An official synopsis of the series reads, quote, depicts the lives of a fierce yet passionate gangster and people living in a huge entertainment district, Kamurocho. I never know how you're supposed to technically say it because they put the little line above the O, and I'm not familiar with like accent marks in Japanese writing, and so whatever. Who gives a shit? A fictional district modeled after the violent Shinjuku ward, Kabukicho. I don't know. I'm usually pretty good at Japanese. Anyway, who gives a shit? The acts of the backdrop of the gameplay, no one cares. The blurb continues. Yakuza Like a Dragon showcases modern Japan and the dramatic stories of the intense characters, such as the legendary Kazumi Kiryu and the games in the past have not been able to explore. The live-action series will consist of 6 episodes, with the first 3 releasing on October 25th, just in time for Black Ops 6, and the final 3 releasing on November 1st, just in time for you to, I don't know, I guess get ready to play Avowed or something. The show, which is produced in Japan, promising, will be available in its original Japanese language with subtitles or with dubbed voiceover. The show is being directed by Masaharu Take of 100 Yen Love. I'm not familiar with that programming. And Kengo Takemoto of Kamen Teacher, another program, show, movie, I don't know, I'm not familiar with. And we'll show Ryoma Takeuchi, who is also in Kamen Rider Drive as well, and he'll be portraying Kiru Kazuma. Basically, all you got to know about this is Yakuza Like a Dragon is a fucking excellent video game series. And if you haven't played at least Yakuza 0, you're doing yourself a great disservice. These are Game Pass games as well, and they're phenomenal. Headhunting Halo writes in, yeah, usually we save him for last, but this week we're pulling him right out from the top. He says, we got a Yakuza series on Prime coming. Wee, celebration. Thank God the Halo show is done. It was seriously ruining it, making me want to talk to my own TV every episode. Such disappointment, but I know. Happy they are finished with it. Yeah, man. I know people are really excited about this show. I gotta be honest. I didn't watch the trailer at all this week until last night when I was prepping for the show, for the podcast. I watched the trailer just to have some kind of familiarity with what they've shown. And I was like, wow, they sure did show a 1 minute and 16 trailer of a crowd of Japanese people being a crowd of people. And then they show a man's back that has tattoos on it. Wow, that really gets me excited about a show. So I don't know, man. I guess a trailer like that is like the true definition of a teaser. You know, I feel like teaser and trailer have been interchanged so much that like oftentimes a teaser is a trailer, and you know, but a trailer is also a trailer. So I feel like this is the most true form of a teaser where I got absolutely nothing out of this. Just the fact that the show is being produced in Japan by Japanese creators and isn't like some American interpretation of Yakuza gives me confidence that the show will at least be done with some passion and true intent behind it. Also, the fact that Amazon's just showed a propensity to put in a little effort when they do adaptations, whether it be like comic shows like well, they do The Boys, don't they? But also Invincible, or whether it be based on books like Man in the High Castle, or video games like Fallout. I feel like Prime Video has proven a track record of like, we aim for quality. They have like almost an HBO mark of quality where it's like, I feel like a Prime Video show is generally pretty much synonymous with good effort and high quality. I could be wrong on that. I don't watch too many Amazon Prime TV shows, so maybe there are some that are terrible or infamous, or I don't know. Well, they also had that wonderful Mimsy girl. I don't know what it is. The girl with the hair. I don't fucking know. I know that show's liked and it's an Amazon show. That's all. But anyway, point being, I have confidence, especially with recent outings of video game TV shows that have proven that it is possible to do decent quality video game TV shows and movies, that there's something good that can come out of this. And so I'm optimistic from that point of view. The other thing, however, the flip side of this is that I'm on Yakuza 4 out of 6, not to mention a couple spin-offs and a second series. So like I've got like 7 Yakuza games I got to catch up on. I can't give a shit about a TV show when I'm still balls deep in the main video game franchise. I can't keep up with this series. It's just too much, too fast all the time, and that stresses me out. But that being said, I know there are Yakuza fans who are up to date and who are always hungry for more, and for them, I hope this TV show is much closer to Fallout or The Last of Us and much less like Halo. I mean, what's worse than Halo? What is a video game TV adaptation in the past 5-10 years that has been half as bad as Halo? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there are examples, but fuck that Halo show. Anyway, so yeah, you know, here's hoping this is a good one. I have reason to believe, at the very least, even if it's not something that I end up going like, wow, this is a really great show, you should watch it. I feel like there's a pretty decent chance that's at least going to be a show that was, I don't know, well executed or has some artistic integrity. I don't fucking know. The Yakuza's getting a TV show. It's coming out soon. Move on with life. All right, one more before we get into the main news of the week. You guys, what do we got here? Oh, yeah. So I thought this was interesting. I was about to not put this in, but I just want to put it in there just because I play a lot of Call of Duty, and I play a lot of multiplayer games, and I just know that this is a big talking point in the sphere of people who play multiplayer, competitive, shooting video games. Skill-based matchmaking. It basically makes, if you believe everything you read online at least, you would think that everyone in the fucking world hates Call of Duty, hates Halo, hates all competitive FPS games because skill-based matchmaking has single-handedly ruined the fun of all video games. And Don't get me wrong, there are days where where I definitely curse skill-based matchmaking, because I get it. Like, sometimes you just want to play Call of Duty and take your chances. Some matches you might get completely fucking smoked, and some matches you might surprisingly be the guy on the top of leaderboards. But skill-based matchmaking tries to set games to where you're always with people who are like around your skill range, maybe just a touch better than you, so that there's always this skin in the game where everyone's roughly evenly matched, and it's kind of like a competitive, like fierce engagement. But I don't know, everyone always likes to reminisce and look back on the past with rose-tinted glasses and go, I liked when you didn't know. Some games you'd be on top of the world, and some games you'd get absolutely clobbered, but at least that way you got a mixed bag, and it was always kind of a more chill experience. These days, with skill-based matchmaking, it's just always sweaty. You just always know you're going to have a sweat fest. I know it's a huge issue for people. I actually kind of personally, I don't think I hate skill-based matchmaking the way a lot of like YouTubers and commentators and pundits do, because I don't know, I feel like I've had a really good time with like Modern Warfare 2 and Black Ops Cold War in recent years, and that skill-based matchmaking wasn't a deterrent for me. But I don't know, maybe let's just read. So according to some research papers that gamesindustry.biz spotted, Activision held an experiment using Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 earlier this year without even informing players. Usually a game's matchmaking takes a player's previous overall performance, such as kill-death ratio and stuff, and it uses that information to match them with players of similar statistics in an attempt to make a more competitive and even match that isn't too easy but also isn't too hard. For the experiment that they did earlier this year without telling anyone, though, Activision took the North American player base for Modern Warfare 3, and then for half that player base, they ran a deprioritized skill test, which loosened the constraints on skill-based matchmaking, meaning that fewer people, or that there was less emphasis on player skill looking for opponents, and then the other half of gamers got normal skill-based matchmaking algorithms. So they tried to test what would happen if we took half the player base and kept them on this skill-based matchmaking system we've been using for a while now that pisses off fanboys, and what would happen if we took the other half of the player base and put them in matchmaking that didn't really take into consideration that much your skill, so that it was more of a hodgepodge of great players and bad players and everyone in between. And according to the data they got from doing this research, players who were where they deprioritized skill-based matchmaking were less likely to come back, meaning that the top 10% highest-skilled players returned to the game in increased numbers within 2 weeks because they were winning more often, but 90% who weren't winning returned. Those who weren't winning were 90% of the rest of the players were less likely to return to the game than normal. Basically meaning that skill-based matchmaking is actually helping retain players. And I feel like it's cool that they did this data and that we're learning about this, that they did this research. But it only like affirms what we already knew. The thing is, it's like, I watch a lot of not right now because I'm kind of off the Call of Duty bandwagon, but I assume I'll come back with Black Ops 6. But for a couple of years, I've been watching a lot of Call of Duty YouTube. I've been following a lot of the Call of Duty community. I follow some of the Call of Duty subreddits. So like I have a little bit of my finger on the pulse of like how the community feels about things. And if there's, I would say if there's one thing I've learned, it's that the Call of Duty fan base, much like any fan base, is fucking insufferable and impossible to please, just like Halo, just like Star Wars, just like anything else. They're just the biggest, most miserable group of fucking assholes you've ever met. Like, I mean, these people, the hardcore Call of Duty fans literally think that Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2022 is like a piece of dog shit video game, which is like, come on, man. It doesn't have to be your favorite Call of Duty game, but it's objectively a well-made video game. Like, calm the fuck down. So it doesn't surprise me to learn this, but yeah, it's exactly that. Hardcore Call of Duty fans tend to probably be on the higher echelon, on the higher tier of skilled players, and they don't like skill-based matchmaking because they get matched with people who are of a similar skill level. Whereas, back in the day when skill-based matchmaking wasn't so much a thing, like back when you were playing Call of Duty World at War, yeah, these motherfuckers would get in matches and just trounce everyone. I mean, I remember very vividly in 2009 playing Call of Duty, and every now and then you get in one of those matches where it's like, I'm playing free-for-all, and I'm in second place with 18 kills and 12 deaths, and the guy in third place has 14 kills and 12 deaths, but the guy in first place has like 48 kills and 1 death. It's like, fuck that motherfucker. I hate this game. Fuck this game. I remember that feeling and that frustration very vividly. And I say this as someone who, despite being a big fan of first-person shooters and competitive multiplayer games, I am very much I'd say dead middle-of-the-road skilled player. I'm not bad, but I'm definitely not good. I'm very much like, I can play 500 hours of Halo or Call of Duty, and I will not get any better at the game. I am very much like a 3 out of 5 skill. Like if skill level is like on a 1 to 5 scale, I am a 3 out of 5 with skill. I'm not particularly impressive, but I'm not terrible either. I'm 50% right down the middle of the road. And I remember getting fucking pissed off out of my mind back in the old days of Call of Duty and Halo 3 and stuff. Just like, this motherfucker ruining the game for everyone. But nowadays I have a different frustration where it's like, God damn, dude, like I'm never on top. I'm never great. But I'm never at the bottom of the leaderboards ever. Like it's with skill-based matchmaking, especially in modern Call of Duty being so specifically fine-tuned. I mean, you'll always catch me in the middle of the pack, maybe upper middle of the pack, but like I am such a middle of the road player. It's insane. So, I mean, it's pretty obvious. The people bitching and moaning on Twitter and Reddit and YouTube all day long about Call of Duty sucks and skill-based matchmaking ruins everything. No, it's just you guys are really good at the game and you just want to have a unfair disadvantage or an unfair advantage over everyone else. And you bitch and moan because now skill-based matchmaking puts you in matches where you're more, on more even footing. So surprise, surprise, fanboys are insufferable and entitled and they just try to make good things bad by bitching about everything. And, I just feel like this research is as someone who's been tuned into the Call of Duty community for a while, I just feel like this is such an indicative little anecdote about just how much internet discourse ruins everything. Because, obviously we had social media, we had the internet back in like 2007 when Modern Warfare came out, or in 2009 when Modern Warfare 2 came out. Obviously, we had social media and stuff, but it was a very, very, very different world. We did not use and engage with Twitter and Facebook and MySpace and YouTube and stuff in 2008, 2010, the way we interact with like TikTok and Reddit and Twitter or X or whatever today in 2024. It's night and day difference. And I just got to say, man, people just used to be happier. Or like we didn't have algorithms connecting the worst parts of people to the other worst parts of other people to just create a cesspool of negativity and hatred. Because I'm telling you right now, man, this isn't like remove your nostalgia, remove the good old days, remove the warm fuzzy memories from the equation, and just base the games, just purely compare the games from a quality standpoint using the metrics and expectations of video games in modernity or of the time to compare one another. Call of Duty Modern Warfare in 2007 was about as good for the time as Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 2022 was for the time. They were both great games with good campaigns, great multiplayer, really engaging content, really fully fleshed out, feature complete, full of great shit for people to play. Both games well worth their asking tags of $60 and $70 respectively. I mean, it's just, but you wouldn't know that today because every fucking Call of Duty YouTuber and TikTok content creator is like, guys, Activision's such a fucking joke. They really thought that they could release don't get me wrong, there are things to laugh about and poke fun at and criticize about, modern video. I mean, listen, I definitely wish we could go back to the days where we didn't have Nicki Minaj in Call of Duty. Don't get me wrong. But like for the most part, I'm talking about like the actual experience of playing the game itself. Like, come on. These games are good. Call of Duty is still a great game. And it applies to everything. Halo Infinite is a very fun video game to play. Do I think it's as good as Halo 3? No, but do I think it is still a very well-made Halo game with its very, Halo Infinite has its other set of problems, which is why I'm not using it as the example because Halo Infinite is actually not content complete or wasn't when it came out. So there's more valid criticism to be levied at that game. But like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's still a fun game, but people just have to be irate and pissed off about, skill-based matchmaking ruins everything. Everything's fucking broken. I don't know. Maybe that's not true. Maybe people just feel entitled to be better than everyone else at video games and they don't like it when game publisher, because obviously, and I'll end it on this, obviously Activision would implement skill-based matchmaking and invest so much time and money into fine-tuning the algorithm and the matchmaking skills or whatever you want to call it, the matchmaking algorithm. They would put so much time and money into fine-tuning it the way they have because they have the fucking telemetry to show that players remain engaged and play more games with skill-based matchmaking on, because the majority of people benefit from it. Shocker. breaking news, big corporations understand how to manipulate their consumer base. I would have never guessed. But anyway, that's it for all of our opening news stories. You guys, we're going to get into the main news, but we're going to do something unprecedented. We're going to first talk about the games I've been eating, and the food I've been playing with, because that's what I do. I eat my video games and I play with my food. But joking aside, yeah, let's kick it off with the what I've been playing, because before I can tell you about what I've been playing, I got to tell you about what I've been eating. Holy shit, I'm having a stroke here with the words. This is the word soup. Before I can tell you about what I've been playing, first I need to tell you about ... what I've been eating. There we go. It's been 270 episodes. You'd think you'd be a fucking natural at this. All right, there you go. Guys, even though I have not had a lot of time to do much of anything this past week or so, on Saturday, I always try to... There's always got to be time to do something with you're not a good husband, you're not a good wife or partner or friend or family member if you're not making the time for your loved ones. You got to make the time. So Saturday, I told my girlfriend, we're going to the mall. This is a thing we've been talking about for a while. We both have a lot of that teenage spirit left in us where sometimes it's just fun to go to the mall. I don't know. I feel like everyone hates the mall now, but I still enjoy the mall. I like a day where it's like, yeah, let me do my hair up and put on some cologne, and I'm gonna go to the mall and do some window shopping. I'm gonna walk through the halls. I'm gonna walk through the town center of consumerism, and we're gonna gather together, and we're just gonna look at shit that we don't need, because I enjoy doing it so far. I enjoy doing it sometimes. So we agreed to go to the mall at Millennia, which is, I guess what you'd say, it's like the biggest mall here we have in the Orlando area. And the reason I love the mall at Millennia is because it is the only, I gotta rephrase, it is the only mall left in the Orlando area, the greater Orlando area, that still has a California Pizza Kitchen in it. I guess there are a couple other California Pizza Kitchens, but usually they're in malls, and this is the only one left. And I like California Pizza Kitchen. I have a soft spot for it because throughout my high school and college career, I worked at many restaurants. I worked at a handful of restaurants over those years, and really there's only two of the 5 restaurants I worked at. Only 2 of them I ever liked enough to where after I worked there, I looked back and I was like, I actually genuinely like that restaurant. Like I as someone who no longer works there, I could go out to dinner at that restaurant and have a great meal and a good night out because I genuinely like that place. And I think California Pizza Kitchen, that was like the high school of restaurant jobs for me. That's like the one where I peaked, It's like, I loved it. I loved my time working at the old CPK at North Point in Alpharetta, Georgia, back from 2014 and 2016. I don't fucking remember, but I loved California Pizza Kitchen. I worked with a great staff. I liked the restaurant a lot. I liked the food a lot. And so I just have fond memories of this restaurant. I like to go back every once in a while. And honestly, probably the reason I'm so warm and nostalgic for it is because I worked at this California Pizza Kitchen around the time that Windows Phone started to wind down and Xbox One had just come out. And I'm just nostalgic for that era of history. That's not really it, but it probably has something to do with it. I don't fucking know. But I wanted to go to California Pizza Kitchen, so I was like, girlfriend, let's go to the mall. We can look at shit we don't need, and we can eat lunch at California Pizza Kitchen. That can be our cheat meal this week. And she agreed, which made me very happy because she's not a particularly big fan of the California Pizza Kitchen. But we went, and guess what? It was fucking phenomenal. I love California Pizza Kitchen. First thing, if you've never been to one, what do they call them? The California egg rolls. The menu is like 85% the exact same as when I worked there. So like our server comes up to us. He's like, hey, guys. First of all, this guy, server, shout out to this server. His name is Cameron. I saw his name tag. Dude looks like a fucking Disney Channel supermodel with the swooshy hair and all from like 2007. I'm like, where the fuck did you come from? You don't have the Bad Bunny broccoli hair Fortnite looking thing that all the kids do today. Like, what the fuck is this? Super handsome looking kid. I'm like, God damn, dude, I'm starting to lose my hair. Look at you with the Justin Bieber thing you got going on. Good for you. Good for you. The girls 12 years ago are going to love you. But he was a nice guy. And what am I trying to say? Wait for it. Oh, yeah. The California egg rolls. Got to get them, man. Got to get these things. They're so good. The fried egg rolls, but they're stuffed with cheese, chicken, bacon, avocado, and then you dip them in like a spicy ranch, and it's just fucking awesome. And then you get the pizzas. I love California Pizza Kitchen. I love that like Wolfgang Puck fucking like 90s, early 2000s California, like fucking wine country, like fake aesthetic that they got going on. I'm a sucker for that look. That fucking Fraser burn shit. Like that does it for me. That's one of my favorite aesthetics. So I love the atmosphere of a California Pizza Kitchen. And they got like all the things where like, it's pizza, just fucking kidding. It's a salad, you idiot. And we put grapes on it. And here's wine because California and because the rest of Americans are fat, but California is better than you. And I love that shit. I'm a sucker for it. So you get the pizza where it's not really a pizza. It's like chicken and bacon cooked onto pizza crust, and then they top it with salad and avocado and tomato. And I'm like, oh, fuck yeah, this is a great pizza. I love that shit. So you get the California Club pizza. So good. You get the salads. They got the barbecue chicken salad. They got the Italian chopped salad, which is so good. You got all the stuff, the Thai crunch salad. How could you forget? Dude, I remember so much about those days. I think when I worked at California Pizza Kitchen, that was probably the one restaurant job I had where I like almost every day I worked a double shift. I wanted to eat the food at that restaurant in between my dinner and lunch shifts, during my break. You had to really, when you work in a restaurant, I'm sure many of you out there have worked in restaurants and know the deal. You work a double shift, you get your shift meal. It's like, oh, you can get it for like, some restaurants do it for free. Some restaurants do it for like 80% off or whatever. You order like an $18 menu item and you pay like $5 for it or whatever. You're just like, hell yeah, whatever the case may be. And dude, back in those days, I used to eat a lot of California clubs and Jamaican jerk pizzas and fucking remember the chicken tequila pot, good stuff. So it's just good to be back at the California Pizza Kitchen. I just want to give a shout out. We don't have too many of them here in Florida. It just seems like in Florida, they're only in malls. They're only in like the big touristy malls. We got there's one in Tampa. There's one in Orlando. There's a couple others somewhere out there, but we don't have many of the California Pizza Kitchens, but it's a chain that I'm glad it has survived. It stood the test of time. It's still here. It survived the pandemic. We're still going. And also shout out to California Pizza Kitchen. I'm not generally a fan of frozen pizza. I think most frozen pizza tastes like ass. California Pizza Kitchen makes a genuinely great frozen pizza. They are way too expensive for frozen pizza. I will not buy them, but holy shit, if you ever come across one, if you ever have one slip in your grocery cart and somehow make its way into your freezer, that's some good shit, man. Their Sicilian frozen pizza, that's a cut above the rest. All right, that's it for what I've been eating. You guys, let's get on to what I've been playing, which, spoiler alert, we talked about at the top of the podcast, nothing. I am in the middle of playing Kunitsugami Path of the Goddess, and that is the game I plan on getting back to this weekend. Oh my God. The past 5 days of my life have been just severe stress and anxiety about something going on in my job. Thankfully, today's the day that everything resolved and things are good. And, good stuff happened. I'm grateful. Good things going on with work. But it was a very stressful and anxiety-inducing past 5 or 6 days for me that got us to this point. So grateful that it's that we're over that now, but needless to say, the last fucking thing I had on my mind this past week was, ooh, I want to go play Xbox. Ooh, I want to go to Disney World and ride the Tower of Terror. Like, no, I don't give a shit about it. I haven't given a shit about any of that stuff. All I've done is like doom scroll to Reddit and freak the fuck out. So we're good now. It's over. Things are good. But that's it for what I've been playing. Nothing. We went and saw Deadpool and Wolverine because we bought tickets like months ago to see it. So that's the closest thing I had to a video game. I went and saw the new Deadpool Wolverine movie. It's the closest thing I can get to telling you about a video game I'm playing. It was a lot of fun. It was a really fun movie. I really enjoyed watching it. I had like all Marvel movies, I had a very fun time watching it. Whether it was good, whether it was bad, doesn't really matter. I just had a lot of enjoyment. I love Hugh Jackman. Gotta love Hugh Jackman. He's I feel like my entire childhood, the way 80s kids can't fucking get their boners in their pants long enough, to stop talking about Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. That's how I feel about Tobey Maguire as Spider-Man and Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Like those two characters to me, it's like, oh my fucking God, man. Like that's my youth wrapped up in a couple of Hollywood's fictionalized characters. I mean, yeah, so getting to see Hugh Jackman play Wolverine again was just an absolute treat for me. But anyway, that being said, that's it. It's the closest thing I've done to play a video game. And now I guess we'll take a water break and get into the news. All right, let's jump into that Activision, kind of. Microsoft, Xbox, fiscal quarter earnings results. All right, It's never good these days. Well, it's always good for Microsoft, but it's never good for Xbox, it seems, at least from the hardware perspective. So, from VGC, Activision Blizzard again helped drive Microsoft's gaming division in its latest financial results, despite a significant decline in Xbox hardware. For over 3 months and on June 30th, 2024, gaming revenue was up 44% year over year, Microsoft said Tuesday, which includes 48 points of net impact from Activision. Without the acquisition, gaming revenue would have been down 4%. Xbox hardware revenue declined 42% year over year, but Xbox content and services revenue, which includes Game Pass, was up by 61% in its quarter. Again, a majority of its 58 points of net impact come from Activision Blizzard. Speaking during a web call following the earning release, I mean, that's what, like Microsoft or World of Warcraft subscriptions, and I'm trying to think, content services, that's like subscriptions and stuff. So, I don't know, what is that, World of Warcraft? Bolstering Game Pass's numbers or something like that? I don't know. Anyway, they say, quote, our content, this is Satya Nadella, CEO, speaking on the web call following the earnings release. He claimed that the gaming division now has over 50 million monthly active users across platforms and devices. Quote, our content pipeline has never been stronger. We previewed a record 30 new titles at our showcase this quarter. 18 of them, such as Call of Duty Black Ops 6, will be available on Game Pass. So we'll come back to that. According to the latest sales data from research firm Circana, Xbox sales consoles are tracking 13% behind where Xbox One was during the same period in its life cycle. Microsoft has already confirmed it's working on a new Xbox hardware and claimed that it has some exciting stuff coming out in hardware that we're going to share this holiday. That's something Sarah Bond said in February during that Xbox podcast news release explaining why they were starting to bring some games to PlayStation. I totally forgot she said that, and then this article reminded me, touching back to that. But yeah, she said this holiday we would learn more about some hardware plans coming soon. So that's actually incredibly weird timing, because holidays when you want to push and sell as many Series S's and X's as possible. So why would you take that time period to be like, oh yeah, by the way, we got new hardware coming soon, but you know what that really means? You want to be in on a little secret. I think what that means is, hey, we're about to announce the next generation of Xbox hardware at the Game Awards in 2024 in December, just like we announced Xbox Series X at the Game Awards back in 2019. So if I were a betting man, I would say we're about to get a peek behind the curtains of the next generation of Xbox in about 3 months, 4 months. That's probably when we're going to get them. Because remember, the next generation of Xbox is supposed to start coming out when? 2026? So, I mean, first of all, okay, the thing I'm 100% on is they're talking about the Game Awards. There's no other time to say this. The thing I'm confused about is what hardware, because by December of this year, we'll be 2-ish years roughly from when we expect to see the next gen of hardware. But also, why would you want to have a revision of a console 2 years before your next hardware? So I guess it could be that they're going to announce one of those leaked projects like the cylindrical Xbox Series X that doesn't have a disk drive or something. But no, because they've already announced other similar Xbox hardware recently. Or it means that they're going to announce the next generation of Xbox hardware. Or it could be, and I apologize, I forget who wrote in about this last week. It could be, like it was suggested by listeners last week, maybe the Xbox handheld is something separate from a console generation. Maybe in 2026 they have a successor to the Xbox Series X, but maybe that Xbox handheld isn't necessarily a successor to the Series S. Maybe it's just a separate piece of gaming hardware that they're working on. So yeah, maybe we get that Xbox handheld announced at the Game Awards. I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I feel like we would. I don't know. I feel like there'd be stronger rumors and reports indicating that that's what we're going to get sooner rather than later if we were that close to it. But at the same time, you never fucking know. So all I can say for sure is I'm pretty sure at the Game Awards this year we're getting some Xbox hardware news. So anyway, back to it. I mean, listen, take Activision out of the equation. Gaming revenue is down 4%. Xbox hardware is just dropping like crazy. What is it? It said hardware decline is 42% down year over year. Insane. Xbox Series S and X is trending 13% lower in life-to-date sales compared to where the Xbox One was at this point in its generation. Now, Xbox One didn't sell terrible. It ended out being around 45 to 50 million units sold lifetime, which actually isn't terrible. It's just relative to Xbox 360, relative to Xbox or PlayStation 3 and 4, it's terrible by those metrics. But if you look at video game hardware historically across all generations of hardware and all manufacturers, 45 to 50 it's pretty good. It's not terrible, but it's not great. But for Xbox to be tracking even worse than that this generation, despite having fixed the hardware issues, fixed the gaming perception and the games and the first party output, it's like, man, I mean, Activision is the reason why they're seeing ROI. Activision is the reason why they're doing well at all. This is terrible news. If you like traditional Xbox, that makes Xbox Game Studios teams make console exclusive games, and they have consoles that sell stuff. I mean, this is all terrible news. People are saying, why the fuck would I buy an Xbox? More and more every day. And so this continues to be a problem. And I think with Satya Nadella hinting at things, saying, we got 30 games that we showed at the showcase. 18 of them are going to be on Game Pass, including Black Ops 6. What he's really hinting at is like, hey, the future of everything is contingent on Game Pass. And the fact that Game Pass is flat in subscription counts, and the only reason we see numbers in that division growing is because they've acquired World of Warcraft and other similar services. I'm trying to think what other services they might have from only Activision Blizzard. I don't know, does Candy Crush have a subscription or some shit like that? Anyway, by making mention of this, I feel like I just can't help but feel like higher ups at Microsoft have all eyes on what will Call of Duty do to Game Pass. And if it exceeds all their wildest expectations and Game Pass subscriptions just double overnight and people go nuts and start buying Xbox Series S's and X's and subscribing to Game Pass to play Black Ops 6, then yeah, great, problem solved. But I think we will be pleasantly surprised to learn that Call of Duty in Game Pass isn't going to move the needle for Game Pass as much as we think. It might do it temporarily, it might do a short-term huge bump and then go away. But in the long run, I just don't know that people have the appetite to engage with gaming this way. And we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But I think a lot of people, and this also works to Microsoft's benefit because Call of Duty is such an expensive game to make, they need to sell video games. I think the majority of people will be happy to just buy Black Ops on PC, on PlayStation, on, well, that's it, right? And then play it on Xbox through Game Pass, which is a shrinking number of players all the time. And will it drive subscriptions way, way up on Game Pass to access a game like Black Ops 6? I wouldn't be surprised if it definitely surges for a little bit, but I don't think it's going to be the thing that turns the ship around. And I think once Satya Nadella and other higher-ups at Microsoft sees that Black Ops 6 isn't the thing to turn the ship around, and Indiana Jones and Avowed and all that stuff this winter, or this fall/winter, I think that's when we get into this territory of like, something has to give, something needs to change. I don't know how Game Pass is always going to be the solution if nothing grows the subscription service. And I don't know how Game Pass is going to be the solution if the only hardware in which it's available on just cannot be moved at all, regardless of the games they put out. So I think there's a lot riding on this fall in general, but specifically Black Ops 6. With Avowed, with Indiana Jones, and with Black Ops 6, and I guess Starfield DLC, but a lot less so that. If all these games don't come out when they're supposed to come out and perform the way that Microsoft hopes for them to perform, I think we're going to see a continuous march in a direction that no one who loves Xbox in the way we have loved Xbox traditionally wants to see come to fruition. I just don't know what you even do with Game Pass. That's great. It's available for people with Fire Sticks. The numbers aren't growing. And when they grow, they don't stay that way for long. They just flatline after a while. So, I don't know, man. I think we're about to get some very, very, very interesting information probably around next spring based on how things go this fall with Game Pass and Xbox's lineup of Game Pass games. So, we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, I'm tired of always having to say that, but whatever. Well, we always get dramatic news with Xbox, so it's not like the wait and see thing doesn't always work out in terms of getting some really interesting news, because we get that interesting news, all right. Yeah, I mean it's grim, man. I know it's like on paper things look good, but it's like, no, Xbox is experiencing financial success off the back of everything that doesn't make it Xbox, and they're going to chase the money. And if traditional Xbox hardware and video games aren't making the money, but the shit that Activision brings to the table they're going to follow that. And more Xbox is going to become the giant multi-platform publisher and a lot less of the, platform holder. Even though I understand, I don't think hardware is going away today or tomorrow. I just think we're in some serious trouble. I just really don't know if Game Pass can save it, and I really don't know how you turn the Game Pass ship around because, we'll see how Call of Duty Black Ops 6 does, but beyond that, if that game can't fix it, nothing can. And we gotta move on from there. So next spring, once we got some distance from this fall's game release and the holidays and everything, I'm really, really excited to see how Game Pass subscription numbers change, how people's engagement with Game Pass changes, how Xbox hardware performs over the winter holiday season. Just all of that is going to be so incredibly interesting to see, and I really can't wait. But I'm also nervous about it because I just want my status quo Xbox to be maintained. All right, the only other story we had to talk about this week, because there's just not many major news stories happening right now. Fable developer Playground Games appears to have opened a third studio. Well, that's nice to see in a time where everyone's losing their jobs in the games industry. As spotted by WCCF Tech, the UK developer's LinkedIn page makes reference of a third studio, all of which of these three studios are based in Leamington Spa. Quote, today Playground has 3 world-class studios in Leamington Spa, the developer said on their LinkedIn. In our original HQ, we continue to support and grow the huge, vibrant Horizon community. In our new studios on the other side of town, we are excited to develop Fable, a new beginning for the legendary franchise. This is different to the About page on the official Playgrounds Games website, which still makes reference to only 2 studios. Quote, today Playground has 2 world-class studios in Leamington Spa, it reads. In our original HQ, we continue to support and grow the huge, vibrant Horizon community. And our new studio on the other side of town, we are excited about developing Fable's new beginnings for legendary franchise. So almost the exact same blurb, but on their website, it's 2 studios, and on LinkedIn, it's 3. It's not clear yet whether the third studio differs from the others or how many staff are working there. After years of speculation, Xbox finally announced last month that Fable will be released in 2025 and will be available on Game Pass and PC day one. I suspect that it's one team for Forza Horizon, one team for Fable, and one team that's like support work / flexibility work / tech work. I guess would be my guess. But that is interesting stuff, man. It looks like Playground Games is probably opening a third team here in a time where Xbox is shuttering studios, at a time where game developers are losing jobs left and right. But Fable is in this kind of home stretch part of development where it's like all hands on deck. This is the time where it's all hands on deck, and they're working on a Forza Horizon 6. They have a separate team in on that, and so they need all the Fable people on Fable, all the Forza people are getting on Forza. Maybe they need some support work from a third, more flexible team. So maybe that's what's happening here. I find this a little hard to believe just because Xbox always touts the synergy between all their teams and how one may be able to help the other in stages of development like this. But, you don't make an accidental grammatical and word choice mistake on your LinkedIn page like that by changing 2 to 3 and then changing the grammar around it to be like, our other 2 studios are across the pond. It's a pretty deliberate message here, which means that one of these 2 things is true, and it's probably the idea that there's a third team. Maybe it's a very small, nimble team that, isn't like heading any project necessarily, but again, they do support work. They do kind of this like flex thing in between the 2 main projects, between the one team's Forza games and the other team's Fable project. But nonetheless, it's just good to see, potentially, assumedly, the industry making a little room for growth in a time where everyone's losing their job. But that's really it for all the big news stories. There's just not too much more to talk about right now. But we do have some closing wrap-up stories. That's right. We have time to get into the important enough news stories important enough to make the podcast, but not more important enough to warrant their own discussions. Speaking of a time where everyone's getting laid off and things are bad and tumultuous, Bungie has announced that they'll lay off 220 staff, or roughly 17% of their staff. In a letter published on Wednesday, the Destiny creator cited rising costs of development and industry shifts for what they called the most difficult changes the studios had to make. The letter, the company also announced 2 major changes in the structure of development going forward. They say, first, we're deepening our integration with Sony Interactive Entertainment, working on integrating 155 of our roles, or roughly 12% of our staff, to Sony Interactive Entertainment over the next few quarters, wrote Peter Parsons, CEO of Bungie. Sony has worked tirelessly with us to identify roles for as many of our people as possible, enabling us to save a great deal of talent that would otherwise have been affected by the reduction in workforce. The letter also announced that the studio is working on a new sci-fi action game in PlayStation Studios. Second, we are working on a new PlayStation Studios leadership to spin out one of our incubation projects, an action game set in a brand new science fantasy universe, to form a new studio within PlayStation Studios to continue its promising development. The PlayStation maker purchased Bungie in 2022. Quote, for everyone affected by the job reduction, we'll be offering generous exit packages, including severance, bonus, and health coverage, the letter reads. The letter concluded by reassuring fans that its planned marathon reboot is still in development and that over 800 developers are still working on it and the Destiny franchise. So Destiny, still going. Marathon reboot, still going. The reason that's important to note is because that confirms that this second team that's integrating more deeply within PlayStation is working on a new project that we don't know about. That's not Destiny. That's not Marathon. It's a new sci-fi action game. I wonder if this is going to be more of a single-player focused project. This is fucking awesome. Cool to learn about. The concerning thing is the fact that it's more integrated heavily within PlayStation means, maybe it's a PlayStation exclusive game and it's not like some multi-platform live service type game and it's something to service PlayStation's exclusivity platform. In which case, bad news for us Xbox fans. We don't want to lose access to Bungie content. But most importantly here, people lost their jobs. They're having a reduction in workforce. And as always, that fucking sucks. It's all we ever hear about these days. It's just disheartening as always. But Bungie making some big moves. If this were a PlayStation podcast, we have more to talk about here. But otherwise, it's good to see that at least after Destiny, they're moving on to multiple new projects. It's not just this flandering of like, what are we doing next? It's like they got multiple irons in the fire. And hopefully those 220 staff are able to find new work elsewhere. It looks like Playground might be hiring. All right, next up, getting into our non-layoff related stories. Starborn could be the second expansion for Bethesda's Starfield, after the company was discovered to have trademarked the name this month. Spotted first by ex-user Timur222, Bethesda registered the name with the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office this month for use in video game software. Shattered Space, the first expansion for Starfield, will be released later this year. Next up, PlayOn will publish the upcoming Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. It's been announced. The publisher, formerly known as Koch Media, have entered into a worldwide publishing partnership with the game's developer Skydance Games. Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra was revealed during the Unreal Engine showcase at GDC back in March, and stars Drew Morlin as Captain America and Carrie Payton as Black Panther, with a release set for sometime in 2025. The development team is being led by Amy Hennig, of course, of Uncharted fame. And next up, certain launch models of the Xbox One console are reportedly failing to download firmware updates, a new report finds. According to Digital Foundry on Eurogamer, the 2013 launch models of the console, the larger VCR-like console that we all know from the early days of the platform, as opposed to the slimmer 2016 One S iteration, are no longer allowed to or able to download the latest firmware update that have if they haven't been updated in a while. So if you've been updating your Xbox One over time consistently, this probably isn't an issue for you. But if you've had your thing on a shelf for a while and you haven't played your Xbox One in a long time, it probably can't jump all these firmware updates ahead. It is now kind of being bricked in a way that it just can't get the latest firmware update, which is an issue because Xboxes won't connect to the internet and do much of anything if they can't get that firmware update, meaning this console's basically useless to use. The Xbox One S consoles don't appear to be affected by this, according to the report. It also appears that launch model Xbox One consoles that have regularly been updated over the years can continue to update as normally. It only seems like a risk for launch model, which means that there is some firmware update that happened between the Xbox One launching in November 2013 and when the Xbox One S came out in 2016, where these old firmware models, these old firmware updates that some consoles might not have been updated past, but all Xbox One S consoles were updated past because they came out after the update came out, are being affected by it. I'm sure this is one of those much to do about nothing. An extraordinarily small number of people are being affected by it, and it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, you probably are getting your old Xbox One bricked if you haven't played it in 7 years kind of thing. but I'm sure if you've played your Xbox One the past couple of years, you're probably at a high enough firmware update to where this isn't affecting you. But still, that doesn't excuse the fact that this sucks, and Xbox probably needs to figure a fucking way to fix this because, I mean, listen, the OG 2013 model, the Xbox One, is an 11-year-old piece of hardware at this point, about to be 11 years old. End of life for hardware support and firmware updates, it's pretty okay after 11 years to be like, all right, enough's enough, we're moving on from here. But at the same time, that's not the precedent that's been set forth with gaming hardware over the time. We're just now losing Xbox 360 marketplace access. So for an Xbox One from 2013 to essentially be bricked and unusable is pretty unprecedented and unacceptable by the standards set forth of gaming hardware over the years. And for that reason alone, Microsoft might want to rectify this, and I assume that they're probably doing just that, but you know the internet. Let's go into hysteria before we use rationale to figure out what might be going on here. Speaking of rationale, the Mafia have a lot of rationality, I think, maybe. Mafia Definitive Edition is coming to Game Pass for consoles and PC on August 13th, Microsoft has announced. Released in 2020, Mafia Definitive Edition is the comprehensive remake of the original Mafia game with an updated script, expanded backstories, and additional cutscenes. And finally, penultimately, a new update is available on Xbox for Discord. With a suite of new features. Highlighted is the ability to watch friends stream directly on their Xbox Series or Xbox One consoles, except they're bricked day one Xbox Ones. If they are sharing their screen from PC Mobile or another Xbox, they'll be able to watch whatever they're playing, so you can stream your friends. It's weird. Users can also now call their friends directly from the Xbox. I was just running into this problem a couple weeks ago when playing Destiny with Cronky and my nephew, so this is great. Anyway. So those updates are rolling out over the coming weeks. And finally, as leaked last month, Microsoft has now confirmed the existence of the Sky Cypher Xbox controller, which is that like blue see-through controller. I like this controller a lot. It looks very much like those early Xbox OG controllers or like those N64 controllers from back in the day where like you can see through and you see all the electronics under it. But it's in this really cool blue look, and it has grip on the back. This controller actually looks really fucking nice. And it's coming out soon. It's rolling out now. You can already pre-order it. It's $70 on Xbox.com. I don't know that I'm going to drop everything and try to get my hands on one of these, but it is a nice-looking controller. So, if you're looking for a fun added controller for your library, maybe your controller's worn out, or you're looking for a Player 2 controller, this is one of the more compelling artistic interpretations they've done in recent history for these Xbox controllers, so maybe take a look at it. I don't know, but it's always fun when there's new options available. So that's a thing for $70 US. But yep, that is it for all of our news this week. Yeah, guys, we made it to the best part of the podcast, the last part of the podcast, the comments, the shoutouts from youtube.com. You know how it goes. You head on over to youtube.com/XboxOnPodcast. That's at XboxOnPodcast at youtube.com, and you click on the latest episode, and you leave a comment, and you can say something mean. You can say something profoundly offensive. You can use cultural slurs aimed at Italians because I'm white, so it is acceptable, and I will personally not get offended, but maybe someone else will get offended, and if they do get offended, so help me God, they might come for you in the comments, and then I won't have nasty comments to contend with, but you will have nasty comments to contend with on my podcast platform, which means I will be condoning the behavior, therefore abusing my power, therefore being a piece of shit, which will make me roughly no different from Boogie, who recently lied about having cancer, but there's a very fun AI country music video about how he lied about having cancer, and it's a very fun and catchy song, and for that reason alone, I will allow him to lie about having cancer and not really having it. So, all in all, where are we? Leave a comment, man. Leave a 5-star review on your podcast service of choice. Just say, Xbox on? I hardly know where. 5 stars. That's all you gotta do. Go to Apple, preferably, you Apple fans out there. Go to Apple Podcasts. Leave a 5-star review. Xbox on her? I hardly know her. Perfect. 5 stars. We're done. Thank you. Thank you so much. God forbid we have a new follower, a new listener of the podcast discover the show, all in part thanks to your 5-star review that pushed the show up the algorithm and suggested it so someone didn't end up accidentally listening to another Xbox podcast like Xbox 2 or Podcast Unlocked or Defining Duke. These are phenomenal Xbox podcasts, but I don't give a shit about the quality of the show. I just want people to listen to my show because I have an ego that needs to be fed and it is hungry. So, What are you waiting for? Leave me a 5-star review, drop a comment, and let's get into this week's comments. Speaking of being a lazy bastard, I didn't organize shit this week. We just got a hodgepodge of comments. We're going to go through them in the order in which they came, and you're going to like it. And I'm really excited to start out the comments this week because our first comment is from, might as well title this one, The Return of the King. It's Dead Captain James, the OG commenter. If you've been listening to Xbox On for any number of years, you know Dead Captain James is the original commenter. I have tried to ship him a small but notable trophy that acknowledges this achievement, but he refuses to give me both his social security number and home address, both of which are needed in order to send him this small but sizable trophy. Dead Captain James, thank you for writing in, and good to see you, man. He says, FTC starting to sound like the FTC was right all along, and of course that's in reference to the calling out Xbox about they're doing the things with Game Pass now that they got Activision. Look, they are starting to gate things off from certain. Listen, man. Yeah, I mean, amen, brother. Like, what? It's weird how like the FTC have been made out to be enemies. I think Cronky wrote in. I don't think I put in. Oh, wait. Here, Cronky wrote in about this, too. Let me just pull it out. He says, I hate how gamers hate the FTC, an objectively good agency, because of console wars. It really sucks that we got here. Real politics aren't bad enough, so they had to go and invent video game politics to make life even more miserable. Yeah. Dead Captain James, Cronky. Yeah. I mean, it sucks. I don't know what to say. I feel like the problem with the FTC is that they had the right intentions and went about this whole acquisition entirely the wrong way, because I feel like so many of these organizations attacked this acquisition from the perspective of someone's got to look out for poor Sony. They're going to get clobbered if Xbox gets Call of Duty. It's like, no, you fucking idiots. This argument needed to be made more from the perspective of think of the consumers. It does not benefit people when corporations gobble up more things. It is weird that the Walt Disney Company owns the rights to all those weird Jaguar documentaries, nature documentaries, because they acquired Fox, which included National Geographic for some godforsaken reason. And that's just fucking weird that Luke Skywalker shares the same timeline as Steve Irwin, the crocodile hunter. I think he did something for National Geographic, so maybe that makes sense. I don't know. It's fucking weird, man. It's really, really weird that we're probably like 10 years away from getting a crocodile hunter ride at Disneyland. Travel with Mickey and Steve Irwin, the late great Steve Irwin and Mickey Mouse as we travel. I mean, God, don't get me all heat on Disney. I hate Disney right now. All right, thank you for writing in, Dead Captain James. I think you show up again later in the comments, but I'm not sure. I just pasted everything in here. All right, Cronky comes back and says, not gonna lie, people being mad that there's a Black Samurai in Assassin's Creed is wild to me. I really think people need to get off the internet so badly. Yeah, I agree. We literally all need to do that from time to time. It's so true. I've been going through phases now where I delete Twitter from my phone for like a couple weeks, and then I download it again, and then I delete it again. So like right now, what the thing I've done to stop being so terminally online is I downloaded an app that like tries to teach you philosophy in like 2 minutes a day, and I followed the literature subreddit. So instead of reading about people being like, Call of Duty's fucking gay and broken, I'm mad about everything, now I'm just reading Reddit posts about people being like, I'm a 8th grade literature teacher, which book should I teach my children? And so it's really not technically any better. I'm still wasting time on the same apps, but it gives me the fake idea that maybe I'm doing something slightly better with my time. I should probably just read an actual book. I don't know. But yeah, Cronky, I agreed. Agree. Corny Puddle writing in and says, I'm very excited about the Xbox handheld. I can't sit for long periods. I usually pace around with a handheld, so it would be nice for me personally. So you like walk around the house while holding a Nintendo Switch or like an ROG Ally or a Steam Deck, and you just walk around and play. Dude, that is a fucking genius way to get your steps in. I don't think I could maintain focus on a video game while also walking, but if you can get over that hurdle, that is a genius and incredibly efficient way to get your daily exercise in while still playing your video games. Corny Puddle, teach me your ways. I need to learn how to do that shit, because I know how to be a sedentary sack of shit and play video games. or how to go outside and exercise and not play video games, and then not have enough time to do both of the things. So if you can combine these into one activity, the real G move to do is you get your Xbox handheld, and then you go to Disney World to hang out for the day, and you don't buy the stupid extra price Genie Plus bullshit line skipping pass that ruins the fun, and you just wait in the standby lines with your Nintendo Switch or your Xbox handheld or your Steam Deck, and you play your video games in line at Disney World. Boom, bada bing, bada boom. You get your fucking earbuds. You can hear Master Chief yelling about how Halo 5 doesn't make sense anymore, and you play Halo Infinite while you wait in line to ride Rock and Roller Coaster. What a great idea. I mean, I already do something like this. I do reading. I bring every time I go to Disney by myself, which is often because I know nobody who has a Disney pass anymore. But every time I go to Disney World by myself, I always just bring my Kindle. Like you'll know when I'm at, like, catch me at Disney World. I'm the guy with the fucking Disney Cruise Line backpack that is full of water bottles and a Kindle, because I'm always reading some stupid fucking book while I wait in line to ride Frozen Ever After as a bearded adult man by myself, surrounded by families on vacation. Daddy, I want to see Elsa. Shut up, little fucking girl. I'm trying to read about Steve Irwin and Mickey Mouse, and you're ruining all the fun for me by having fun on your precious family vacation. I'm a terrible piece of shit, I guess. Anyway, Courtney Puddle, you're a sexy man. Thank you for writing in. Mike Clark comes in with not one, not two, but 3 comments. So let's just read them all, even though there's probably no coherency because I pasted it like this, but we'll read it anyway. The disjointedness only adds charm and character to the podcast, right? Didn't mean to delete that. There we go. All right. Mike Clark writes in and says, vacation. Thank you for your curiosity, Jesse. Last week, Mike Clark said he couldn't write in because he was on vacation, so here we go. My wife and I celebrated 29 years. Dude, your wife and you have been together for as long as I've been alive. My wife and I celebrating 29 years together decided to go on off the grid for a vacation. We holed up in a cabin, and it only reachable by boat, and what the fuck? That's awesome. And roamed the Appalachian Mountains. Most of our adventures unfolded at Dewey Lake in Jenny Wiley State Resort Park. What the fuck? To sum it up, we turned into fishing pros, feasted on freshwater catches and the occasional squirrel, and had a blast zip-lining, hiking, swimming, horseback riding, hunting, fishing, and barbecuing a mountain of chicken. The journey began with a series of awkward glances, but by the end we couldn't tear ourselves away from the spot. Escaping the constant onslaught of TV and endless scrolling through YouTube, X, and MySpace was a breath of fresh air. As it turned into the FM waves, as we tuned into the FM waves, we fortuitously discovered a concert announcement for Cinderella's Tom Kiefer and managed to catch the performance. What the fuck? And managed to catch performance on our way home. It was unequivocally the best staycation ever. We avoided the airport chaos, bypassed customs, and can wholeheartedly recommend it to everyone. Jesse, your show was fantastic as usual, but I think I'll skip the Taco Bell adventure this time. Well, that vacation. That's so not Jesse, everything about that vacation. So I'm not going to be like, wow, that sounds like a great time. I'm going to go do something. When I see people like enjoy free time like this, I always feel a little like envious, because I'm like, oh yeah, I forget that there are people who like are capable of being self-sufficient and like to get off the grid and like just kind of enjoy this, like get back to nature, kind of get in touch with your humanity and your more natural side. And it's like, it's cool. Like that's so cool to me. Like, what the fuck are you roaming around the Appalachian Mountain, getting to a cabin that could only be reached by boat? The fuck? Living off the land? Like, that shit sounds cool to me. I'm like, wow, that's awesome that people can do. Dude, if I try to do something like that, I would sink the boat and drown trying to get to the cabin. And if that didn't happen, I would fucking get vile food poisoning trying to catch a fish and cook it, because I'd probably be eating a leather boot that I got out of the water instead of a fish. I mean, it's impressive stuff, but also there's something very pastoral, and I do like about what you're describing. And it sounds nice, man. Congrats to you and your wife on 29 years together. That's a beautiful thing. Hopefully you guys have many more years together. And glad to see you guys were able to get away, escape, unwind, disconnect, and have some time together. So that's really awesome, Mike Clark. So good for you guys. But you come back because you're back to the real world. And now, or maybe that was the real world and this is the manufactured world. Probably the case. But you come back to the world in which we all know, where you got to talk about the video game and the tech and all this shit, where you say GPU / FTC, Game Pass University / FTC. Oh, Game Pass Ultimate / the FTC shit. Game Pass University is where I got my degree. This year I played on Game Pass Ultimate titles like Gears of War 4, Tales of Arise, which was totally snagged for a game, snagged my game of the year. Snagged the DLC 2, Hellblade 2, Forza Horizon 5. But seriously, is it too much to ask for a simple arcade racer? Shelled out a cool $120 for Game Pass Ultimate subscription. Decided to ditch it for Game Pass PC Life. Skip the Series X, not because it ain't shiny and cool piece of tech, but because the Xbox roadmap is more mysterious than Grandma's meatloaf recipe. Love it. Recommending Xbox is like trying to nail jelly to a wall. You never know what features you're getting, what they'll morph into, or if they'll vanish like my socks in the laundry. It is Microsoft after all. That is incredibly well put. That's like, I almost wonder if Mike Clark is Sam Torres, because the way you put that comment is very Sam Torres-esque. And yeah, it's very poignant. It's very true. I feel like that's the best way to put Microsoft and Xbox's efforts. But hey, man, there you go. Game Pass, full of value, great subscription, all the good shit. There have been some good arcade racers in Game Pass in the past. I don't know if there are any right now, but over the years there have been some good ones from time to time. So I'm sure we'll get some more. But yeah, dude, I'm always arcade racing games. That's always such like a great, mindless, fun little arcade experience. So more shit like that. I agree, actually. All right, but you wrap up with this little blurb. You say, "Hey there, I was just wondering if the Olympics opening ceremony was produced by Sweet Baby or if it was just done in poor taste." I don't watch the Olympics, so I don't know what that means, but I did tune into the opening, not the opening ceremony. I tried to tune into the Olympics for like a minute on Friday or whatever when it was starting, and all I saw was just a bunch of people from foreign countries I've never heard of riding around on little floats in the river down Paris, and the sight of these Europeans smiling, being physically fit, engaging in a global exchange of culture and art and skill and triumph and human achievement made me sick to my stomach. It made me vile. It made me gag and throw up. And I thought to myself, only the Americans can be great. How dare the Europeans think they could dare challenge us to horseback race, let alone skeet shooting. I don't know what the fuck they do at the Olympics. I wanted to watch the skateboarding stuff they did at the Olympics, but definitely missed that. I don't know. Why? Did they do some woke ass shit at the Olympics? They were like, were the athletes from like Uganda black or something? Was it woke? Was it woke because all the African athletes were black or something? Is it? Oh man, they had female gymnasts. The Olympics is so woke. The Olympics went broke. Look at that. They got female gymnastics and black athletes from fucking the Democratic Republic of the Congo or wherever the fuck athletes come from. I don't fucking know. Yeah, I'm sure someone out there had something to complain about for no goddamn reason. Mr. Maug writes in and says, "Them street chalupas from Taco Bell, amazing, had to have them again." Bro, yes, sir, they are. Yeah, dude, it's so funny. I got all my coworkers hooked on them now too. And like it's like every day at work, someone is making the trip out to Taco Bell to pick those fucking things up, and it's hard because I haven't had them. I had them the one time, and then I had them immediately the next day because they were so good. But I haven't had them again since, and I'm trying not to eat them because I really don't need to have them. But every day at work, at some point in the day, sure enough, I smell those motherfuckers somewhere in the office. Someone's Uber eating or running down to the local Taco Bell or something, and it's driving me nuts, man. I want them all the time. It's all I think about. Good shit, man. I'm glad you like them. All right, Sam Frito, the sexy motherfucker, comes in and says, "I am coming to the conclusion." I should have saved this one for last because Sam Frito. I'm coming to the conclusion. It's not what you're eating or what you're playing. Xbox On is great for the rants. Circling back to the diminished interest in games, especially Xbox, people need to stop acting like life was created solely for gaming. It's a great hobby, and I've loved it for all the years. But it wouldn't be a hobby if I wasn't interested in it. Mr. Apologizing AK-74 was into D4, a game that came out a decade ago, as you stated. Holmes really isn't trying or isn't really into Xbox. I like Qbert, but my tastes have definitely advanced. Guess what games I like now? Probably Laser Suit Larry, because you're fucking perfect, dude. Everybody knows it. No, I don't know. But as always, Sam, well put. Yeah, man. I mean, it's exactly what I said last week. Where are all those people, those new first time commenters this week, right? This most recent episode of the podcast didn't have a salacious title that caught the attention of those kinds of people. And where are their follow-up comments now? Where are their engaging comments in response to the things I said to them last week? Where's the open dialogue? Where's the constructive conversation? Where? Nowhere. Because those motherfuckers didn't listen to the podcast. They saw a title. They clicked. They bitched and moaned. And then they went away and said, I'm right. I feel good about myself. I'm going to go on Twitter and argue with someone who fucking said my trans friend is happy with their life, and I'm going to yell at them now and tell them they're a piece of shit because they're woke and they're ruining Spider-Man and Star Wars for me. Ooh. So, I don't know, man. But great point, dude. Here's the thing is, when I was a little kid, I liked Lego Island for the Nintendo Game Boy Color. Now I am older, and I like playing Kinitsugami Path of the Goddess. The difference between these games is, in Lego Island, you have to stop the Brickster from stealing the pizza on Lego Island. But in Kinitsugami Path of the Goddess, there is a Japanese woman with large anime breasts, and you have to protect her at all costs using the power of the samurai and your various allied forces that you can command to stop the forces of evil from taking over the kingdom, despite humanity's selfishness being the cause of this rift in dimensions where evil spirits are invading and creating a precarious situation for said beautiful princess woman of Japanese descent with large anime breasts. And I guess what I'm trying to say is my tastes had changed over time. I used to like the Lego Brickster who wanted the pizza recipe in the Lego games, but now I like anime titties. So I'm with you, man. It's weird. People are fucking weird. And I think Dead Captain James is coming back to bring up a little something about it as well. He says, DEI is the new boogeyman that scares fragile white people. There, I went ahead and said it. The anti-wokers are some of the most annoying people on the entire internet. Heaven forbid that we have extra representation for minorities. Oh, woe is me. Yeah, I don't know. It's so silly, man. I wish so badly, not for the political sake or for the social sake. Well, not for the political sake, but for the sake of making progress for humanity, that people could truly fucking have enough brain cells to rub together to stop making it about the immutable characteristics and the things about a person that do not define a person in any way, that don't fucking matter about a person. Like being gay, being black, being a woman, that's not an identity. That's not an important characteristic. It's like you can be any number of those things and it's totally fucking fine. You're a human. You're entitled to have a good life and build a life for yourself and be represented in media and to enjoy all the spoils and riches of the world that any other fucking person enjoys. Like, you're a fucking person. But I don't know, it's so disheartening because corrupt, like, fucking corporate media and politicians and corporations have done such a good job of realizing it's like, hey, we can pit everyday working class people against one another by trying to rile them up constantly about shit that doesn't matter. Like, oh, hey, your neighbor has a penis but likes other penises. Doesn't that just make you mad? Don't you just wish Jesus was more involved and that the world was normal like when Reagan was president? It's like, no, you stupid motherfucker. It doesn't fucking matter. Can we just talk about how BlackRock owns all the fucking houses in your neighborhood? Can we just talk about how, like, we're the richest country in the world and we don't give a shit that there's so many homeless people? Can we just talk about the fact that, like, a family of four can't go to the grocery store and get out unscathed, you know, without going into financial fucking crippling debt just to try and pack lunches for their kids when they go to school? Can we, like, talk about anything that actually fucking matters and stop, like, giving a shit about, they made Spider-Man a woman? What? Miles Morales is black Spider-Man? Oh, It's so tired, man. I'm so fatigued by it all. And it's like, can you imagine if we took all the frustration about skill-based matchmaking in Call of Duty, and all the frustration about how Disney ruined Star Wars, and all the frustration about how the Ghostbuster girls are women now and not men now? It's like, imagine if we took all the frustration and rolled it up and was like, hey, government, Why do we keep getting involved in other people's wars? Hey, government, why do we allow all the homeless people to exist when we could just, like, give them clothes and shelter and not let them die in the fucking streets. Hey, corporations. I don't give a shit what you think about Gay Month or African American History Month because you're a fucking corporation. You're just trying to serve me a Big Mac. Why do I care what you think about gay? It hurts my fucking brain. But, I don't know, man. That's like the one thing where I'm like, no, that's not rose-tinted glasses. That's not nostalgia. That's just objective truth. The internet was, in fact, a better place 10, 15 years ago. And I think the biggest reason why is because I think most corporations and political figures and entities were less aware of how powerful the internet was and how to manipulate people through the channels of the connected internet. And as a result of them being less involved and having fewer tendrils through all those channels, and by molesting the fucking experience of being online less and less in those days, we were able to just have like more wholesome fun. Like, do you remember the early days of YouTube where everyone was just trying to make like basically funny skit comedy videos, and like everything on YouTube was like comedy gold, and now everything on YouTube is like, today's video is sponsored by Factor. Why is every corporation trying to get you to suck dick? Listen to my 47-minute video and I'll tell you exactly why. It all starts with Star Wars. And it's like, fucking kill me already. It always goes back to Star Wars, doesn't it? I don't know, man. I hate everything, man. I'm so tired of everything having to be a problem that doesn't even need to exist, man. It's so weird. But yeah, you guys really should play Path of the Gods. It's a very fun video game. I highly recommend it. Mr. Maug has the final comment and says, I've been playing Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3 a lot since they added it on Game Pass. Haven't touched the campaign, but I'm enjoying the multiplayer. They sneakily put me against noobs my first few games, and so my average KDR was 4.0, but now I'm against tryhards like myself, so I'm at a measly 1.5 KDR now. Dude, we should have read this comment earlier because this is exactly what I'm talking about. Dude, that's what they do with skill-based matchmaking. They put you in a couple matches where you're OP so you can feel good about yourself, and then they put you with people who are like you so that it brings you back down to reality. It's like I don't know, it's like when you're a kid and you like fucking, you're a kid and you like draw a picture that looks like shit. And everyone's like, oh my God, Tony, that's the cutest picture ever. You're a little artist. And then you're like 40 and you're like, guys, look, I drew a picture. I'm going to put it on my art Instagram account. Please. I'm a starved artist. Please like this because I'd love to quit my day job so I could go pursue my art career. And everyone goes, fuck you. Nobody gives a shit about your art, Tony. It wasn't cute when we were in high school. It's not cute now that you're 40. Why don't you go pay your fucking alimony, you piece of shit? And yeah, it's sad and you're a starved artist. And that's how it works. And that's how Call of Duty does you. But instead of doing it over the course of 30, 40 years, they do it over the course of 4 multiplayer matches. So like 50 minutes of gameplay, I guess. I don't know. Mr. Maug, I'm glad you're enjoying Modern Warfare 3. It does have fun multiplayer, so I'm glad you're enjoying the multiplayer. And I suspect many people are hopping on that game either for the first time or for the first time in a while right now, thanks to Game Pass. And that's great. It's great. It's good that people are having more value in their subscription and more fun with the games they have access to. So with that said, guys, that's it for another week of Xbox On Podcast. Not sure how we did. Maybe it sounds like any other week of the podcast. I don't know. We're at about an hour and a half mark, so we did pretty all right, all things considered. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've just been slapping random-ass Sonic the Hedgehog songs at the end of every podcast, so I'm going to go find a Sonic song to slap on the end of this podcast right now. But until then, until we see each other again next week, be well. Don't be a fucking dick. Just watch yourself on the internet. Just remember, everything you see on the internet that is making you frustrated is because an algorithm has already determined what pisses you off, and it is just trying to poke you. So maybe go read Chaucer or something. Go fucking eat a fucking Activia weight loss bar. Go for a walk. Pet your cat. God forbid, do anything other than engage with the internet. But until next week, do whatever the fuck you want. I don't care. Empower your dreams.
Before you, I believe we have the power. you see your horizon? Victory for the taking.
Strike them down. We can't let evil win, take them out. This is justice, this is what's right. Here comes the